The Kethrin research vessel Harmony's Grace drifted helplessly through the void, its once proud hull now scarred by plasma burns and meteor impacts. Inside the cramped emergency shelter, Dr. Lyra Vexcon pressed her trembling fingers against the communication console, sending the same desperate message she had been transmitting for 3 standard cycles. This is Research Vessel Harmony's Grace of the Kethrin Scientific Collective. We are stranded in the Terminus sector after our hyperdrive core suffered catastrophic failure. Our life support systems are failing. We have injured crew members who need immediate medical attention. Please, if anyone receives this transmission, we are dying out here. Lyra's voice cracked on the last words. Around her, the surviving members of her research team huddled in the dim emergency lighting. They had been studying the migration patterns of void whales, those magnificent creatures that somehow survived in the vacuum of space when the pirates had attacked. The Bloodfawn Consortium had swept down on them like vultures, demanding they surrender their research data and valuable specimens. When Captain Thorne had refused, they had opened fire without warning. The battle had been brief and brutal. Most of the crew was dead, the ship's main systems were offline, and they were slowly suffocating in a metal tomb. "Any response yet?" asked Dr. Kes Thylar, the team's xenobiologist. His blue-scaled face was pale with fear, and one of his arms hung useless at his side where shrapnel had torn through it during the attack. Lyra shook her head sadly. "Nothing. The communication array was damaged in the attack. I'm not even sure our distress signal is reaching beyond this system." The Kethrins were a peaceful species. They had developed faster-than-light travel through cooperation with other races, sharing technology and knowledge freely. Their ships were built for exploration and research, not warfare. They had no weapons beyond simple defensive shields, and those had failed within minutes against the pirates' military-grade plasma cannons. "How long do we have?" whispered Engineer Plex Wardens, their youngest team member. She was barely out of the academy, her purple skin still bearing the ceremonial markings of her graduation. She should have been safe on a routine research mission, not facing death in the cold depths of space. Lyra checked the life support readings and felt her heart sink. Maybe 18 hours before the air becomes too thin to breathe. Less if the recyclers keep failing. The crew fell silent. They all knew what that meant. The Kethrins were carbon-based, but they required a precise mixture of gases to survive. Without proper life support, they would slowly suffocate, their consciousness fading as oxygen levels dropped. Through the small viewport, Lyra could see the stars wheeling slowly past as their ship tumbled through space. Somewhere out there, the void whales continued their eternal migration, following paths older than civilization itself. She had dedicated her life to studying them, hoping to unlock the secrets of how they survived in the vacuum. Now she would die without ever understanding their mystery. "Wait," said Kes suddenly, his head tilted as if listening to something. "Do you hear that?" The others strained to listen. At first, there was only the usual background hum of failing systems and the whisper of recycling air. Then, Lyra heard it too, a faint rhythmic pulsing coming through the ship's hull. "It's coming from outside," Plex said, moving to the sensor station. Her fingers danced over the controls, trying to coax some function from the damaged systems. "I'm getting something. Large masses approaching from the outer system." "More pirates?" Kes asked fearfully. "No," Plex said, her voice filled with wonder. "The energy signatures are all wrong. These aren't ships. They're alive." Through the viewport, shapes began to emerge from the starfield. Vast, graceful forms that moved with purpose through the void. The void whales had heard their distress call and were coming to investigate. "Incredible," Lyra breathed. "They're responding to our transmissions. But how? They shouldn't be able to understand our technology." As the creatures drew closer, their song became clearer, deep, resonant notes that seemed to vibrate through the ship's hull and into their very bones. It was beautiful and alien and completely beyond their understanding. But then something else appeared on the sensors. Ships, real ships this time, following in the wake of the void whales. The energy signatures were unlike anything in the galactic databases. Powerful, efficient, and somehow primitive and advanced at the same time. Unknown vessels. Lyra transmitted on all frequencies. This is the Kethrin research ship Harmony's Grace. We are in distress and require immediate assistance. The response came back in heavily accented galactic standard, the words carefully pronounced as if the speaker was translating from another language. Harmony's Grace. This is Captain Sarah Chun of the Earth vessel Defiant. We received your SOS through our whale friends here. Hang tight. Cavalry's coming. Captain Sarah Chun stood on the bridge of the Defiant, studying the tactical display with practiced eyes. The Kethrin ship was in bad shape. Hull breaches, power failing, life support critical. But what really caught her attention were the pirate vessels lurking at the edge of the system, waiting like jackals for the researchers to finally die. "Ma'am," called Lieutenant Rodriguez from the communication station. "We're getting chatter from those blood-fong ships. They're demanding we leave immediately, claiming salvage rights on the Kethrin vessel." Sarah's jaw tightened. She had seen plenty of pirates during humanity's expansion into space, but the Bloodfawn Consortium was particularly vicious. They preyed on peaceful races, stealing their technology and selling prisoners into slavery. The galaxy's so-called civilized species tolerated them because they stayed in the outer systems and didn't interfere with major trade routes. "Tell them to go to hell," Sarah said calmly, "and prep the Marines for boarding action." "Captain," said Commander Martinez, her first officer, "there are 6 Bloodfawn cruisers out there. We're outnumbered." Sarah smiled grimly. "Then it's a fair fight." The Defiant was one of Earth's new exploration vessels, built after humanity had finally achieved faster-than-light travel through their alliance with the void whales. Unlike other species, humans had approached the great space creatures not as specimens to be studied, but as partners to be respected. The whales had responded by teaching them their ancient paths through the stars. "Distance to the Kethrin ship?" Sarah asked. 2 minutes at current speed," reported the navigator. "And the pirates? They're moving to intercept. Looks like they don't want witnesses to whatever they were planning." Sarah nodded. She had expected as much. The Bloodfawn Consortium operated by eliminating anyone who might report their activities to the Galactic Council. They couldn't afford to let the Kethrins live, and they certainly couldn't allow humans to rescue them. "All hands, this is the captain," Sarah announced over the ship's communication system. "We have a rescue operation in progress. Kethrin scientists are dying while pirates circle like vultures. Today we show the galaxy what human compassion looks like." Battle stations. The bridge erupted into controlled chaos as crew members prepared for combat. Unlike the sleek, automated ships of other species, human vessels required large crews working in coordination. It was considered primitive by galactic standards, but it made their ships incredibly difficult to disable. There was always someone to take over if systems failed. "Ma'am, we're being hailed by the lead Bloodfawn vessel," Rodriguez reported. "Put them through." The main screen flickered to life, showing a scarred reptilian face with cybernetic implants. Captain Vrak Stoneclaw of the Bloodfawn Consortium looked exactly like what he was, a killer who had turned piracy into an art form. "Human vessel," Vrak hissed. "You are interfering with a legitimate salvage operation. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." Sarah stepped forward so the alien could see her clearly. She was a small woman by human standards, but her eyes held the steel that had carried humanity from a single world to the stars. "Captain Stoneclaw," she said pleasantly, "I know exactly who you are and what you've done. The Endorian colony you raided last year. The Pelion transport you destroyed. The children you sold into slavery on Kepler Station." Vrak's eyes narrowed. "You have no proof of those accusations." "I don't need proof. I have something better." Sarah's smile turned predatory. "I have a ship full of very angry humans who don't like bullies." "Your species is young and weak," Vrak snarled. "You have no idea what you're challenging." "Actually, we do. See, you made a mistake when you attacked that research ship. Those Kethrins were studying void whales. the same creatures that taught us how to travel between stars. When the whales felt their distress, they called for help. And we always answer when friends are in trouble. The communication channel went dead as Vrak cut the transmission. On the tactical display, Sarah could see the Bloodfang ships spreading out into attack formation. "Ma'am," called Chief Petty Officer Hassan from the weapons console. "Bloodfang cruisers are charging their plasma cannons." "Return the favor," Sarah ordered. "But remember, we're not here to start a war. We're here to save lives." The void whales had positioned themselves between the human ship and the pirates, their massive forms creating a living barrier. Sarah could hear their song through the ship's hull, deep, resonant notes that spoke of ancient wisdom and protective fury. "The Kethrans are responding," Rodriguez announced. "They try to restore their shields, but their power grid is failing." "Tamagor in our pay," Sarah said. "All departments, this is not a drill. We have civilians to protect and pirates to discourage. Remember your training, trust your teammates, and let's show the galaxy why you don't mess with humans or their friends." As the Defiant accelerated toward the doomed research ship, Sarah felt the familiar calm that came before battle. Humanity might be new to the galactic stage, but they had brought something with them that the older races had forgotten: the willingness to fight and die for strangers simply because it was the right thing to do. The pirates were about to learn why humans were called Deathworlders. The first Bloodfang plasma barrage lit up space like angry stars, but the void whales had already begun their ancient dance. Their massive bodies moved with impossible grace, creating interference patterns that scattered the deadly energy beams harmlessly into the void. The pirates had expected easy prey. Instead, they faced creatures older than their civilization and humans who refused to abandon the innocent. "Incredible," whispered Dr. Lyra Vexcon as she watched through the viewport of the Harmony's Grace. The void whales surrounded their damaged ship like protective guardians, their bodies glowing with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed in rhythm with their song. Sergeant Mike Torres of the Earth Marine Corps was already suited up and ready for zero-gravity operations. He had volunteered for the rescue mission the moment Captain Chun put out the call. Through his helmet's display, he could see the Kethran ship spinning slowly, its hull torn open in several places. "Sergeant Torres," came Captain Chin's voice through his comm system. "You have authorization to board the Kethran vessel. Priority is medical evacuation of survivors." "Roger that, Captain. Team Alpha is ready for deployment." Torres led a squad of 6 Marines, each carrying emergency medical supplies and portable life support units. They launched from the Defiant in individual thruster packs, weaving between the void whales toward the damaged research ship. The whales seemed to recognize their intent. One massive creature, easily 3 times the length of the human vessel, positioned itself to provide cover from pirate weapons fire. Torres could see scarred patches on its hide, ancient wounds from some long-ago battle. These creatures had seen war before. "Boarding tubes secured," reported Corporal Kim as the Marines reached the Kethran ship's emergency airlock. "Atmosphere is thin but breathable." Torres was the first through the hatch, his rifle ready despite the peaceful nature of their mission. You could never be too careful in space. Sometimes life support failures drove survivors crazy with oxygen deprivation. Instead, he found Dr. Lyra and her team huddled in the emergency shelter, barely conscious but still trying to send distress signals. The Kethrans looked like a cross between birds and lizards, with scaled skin that shifted from blue to purple depending on their emotional state. Right now, they were all a pale, frightened gray. "Ma'am," Torres said, activating his helmet's universal translator. "I'm Sergeant Torres of Earth Marine Corps. We're here to get you out." Dr. Lyra's eyes widened in amazement. "You're actually here?" "The humans responded to our call." "The whales heard you first," Torres said as he began checking the wounded. "We just follow their lead." "Can you walk?" "I think so," Lyra said, struggling to her feet. "But Dr. Thylar is badly injured, and Engineer Wardens is unconscious." Torres gestured for his medic. Corporal Washington knelt beside the injured Kethrans, her scanner revealing internal bleeding and atmospheric poisoning. "We need to get them to sickbay immediately, Sergeant." "Already on it," Torres said, activating his comm. "Captain Chun, we need emergency medical transport. 2 critical, 1 stable." "Affirmative." Dr. Patel is standing by in sickbay. As the Marines prepared the survivors for transport, explosions rocked the ship. The Bloodfawn pirates had decided to end this rescue attempt permanently. Through the hull, Torres could hear the deep thrumming of whale song, but now it carried a different tone. These gentle giants were angry. "Sergeant," came Captain Chin's urgent voice, "we're taking heavy fire. The whales are doing their best, but we need to accelerate this rescue." Torres looked around the emergency shelter. The Kethrin research data was scattered everywhere. Years of work studying the void whales. If the pirates got their hands on it, they could use it to hunt and capture the magnificent creatures. "Dr. Lyra," he said urgently, "your research data, is it important?" "It's everything," she whispered. 20 years of studying whale migration patterns, communication methods, breeding grounds. If the consortium gets it, they won't, Torres promised. He turned to his team. "Kim, Washington, get the survivors to safety. Rodriguez, Martinez, help me secure this research data." "Sergeant, we should evacuate immediately," Corporal Kim protested. "Negative. These whales risked themselves to call us here. We're not letting some pirates turn that into a hunting manual." Torres and his remaining Marines quickly gathered the Kethrin data crystals and research equipment. Outside, the battle was intensifying. Through the hull, he could hear the distinctive whine of human railguns mixing with the harsh crack of alien plasma weapons. "All data secured," Martinez reported. "But, Sarge, we've got a problem. Life support just failed completely." The lights flickered and died, leaving them in emergency illumination only. The air recyclers went silent, and Torres could feel the temperature beginning to drop. Without power, the Kethrin ship was becoming a frozen tomb. "Time to go," Torres said. "Everyone stay close and follow my lead." As they prepared to evacuate, Torres felt a strange vibration through the ship's hull. It was rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat, but impossibly large. Through the viewport, he could see one of the void whales positioning itself alongside the research vessel. "My God," whispered Dr. Lyra. "It's trying to communicate directly with the ship." The whale song was so deep and powerful that it resonated through the metal hull like a giant tuning fork. But there was something else, patterns in the vibration that reminded Torres of Morse code or binary data transmission. "It's not just communicating," he realized. "It's trying to power our systems." Bioelectrical energy flowed from the whale's massive body into the ship's emergency systems. Lights flickered back to life, and the air recyclers hummed back into operation. The creature was literally sharing its life force to keep them alive. "Unbelievable," Torres said softly. "These things aren't just intelligent, they're compassionate." "Now you understand," Dr. Lyra said, tears streaming down her scaled cheeks. "This is why we study them. They're not just animals, they're teachers." As Torres led the evacuation, he made a silent promise to the whale that was saving their lives. Whatever it took, humanity would protect these magnificent creatures from anyone who would harm them. The galaxy was about to learn that humans didn't just make allies, they made family. The battle raged across the star system as Captain Sarah Chun pushed the Defiant to its limits. The Bloodfawn pirates had superior numbers and firepower, but they had never faced human tactical doctrine before. While other species relied on automated systems and predictable attack patterns, humans embraced chaos and adaptation. "Hard to port," Sarah commanded as plasma beams seared past the bridge viewports. "Return fire, spread pattern." The Defiant's railguns spoke with thunderous authority, launching magnetically accelerated projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed. Unlike energy weapons, kinetic rounds couldn't be deflected by shields or absorbed by armor. They simply punched through whatever stood in their way. 2 Bloodfawn cruisers learned this lesson the hard way as railgun slugs tore through their hulls like tissue paper. The pirates hadn't expected such primitive yet devastating weapons. "Ma'am," called Lieutenant Rodriguez. "Sergeant Torres reports all survivors evacuated from the Catherine ship. They're requesting immediate medical attention." "Tell Dr. Patel she has incoming," Sarah replied, not taking her eyes off the tactical display, "and inform Sergeant Torres that his people performed above and beyond." The void whales had formed a protective formation around the human ship, their massive bodies interceding between the Defiant and the heaviest pirate attacks. But Sarah could see they were taking damage. Bright orange blood drifting in crystalline clouds where plasma beams had found their mark. "Captain Stoneclaw is hailing us," Rodriguez announced. "Put him through." The reptilian pirate's face appeared on screen, his cybernetic implants sparking where battle damage had affected his systems. "Human, call off your pets and surrender, or we will destroy you all." Sarah's expression remained calm. "Counterproposal, Stoneclaw. You and your butchers leave this system immediately, and I won't have to explain to my superiors why your entire fleet suffered a navigation malfunction. You cannot defeat 6 ships with 1 vessel." Vrax snarled. "Watch me." Sarah cut the transmission and turned to her weapons officer. "Chief Hassan, I want a full spread on the lead cruiser. Target their bridge." "Ma'am, that would be considered an execution under galactic law," Commander Martinez warned quietly. "And what they did to the Kethran civilians would be considered murder," Sarah replied coldly. "Sometimes the galaxy needs to remember that justice has teeth." The railgun barrage struck the pirate flagship with devastating precision. The bridge section simply ceased to exist, vaporized by kinetic energy that no shield could stop. The remaining Bloodfang ships wavered, their formation breaking as subordinate captains suddenly found themselves in command. But Captain Vrax's death only enraged the remaining pirates. They abandoned all pretense of tactics and swarmed toward the human ship in a berserker charge, plasma cannons firing wildly. "All power to forward shields," Sarah commanded. "We're going through them." "Ma'am, that's suicide," Martinez protested. "No," Sarah said with absolute certainty. "That's human." The Defiant accelerated directly into the pirate formation, its armored prow designed to ram through asteroid fields now serving as a battering ram. The void whales seemed to understand her intent. They moved aside, creating a clear path straight toward the enemy ships. The first pirate cruiser tried to match the human tactic, thinking it was a game of chicken. It wasn't. The Defiant struck the alien vessel amidships with the force of a guided asteroid, cutting it completely in half. Debris scattered in all directions as the human ship emerged from the explosion, scarred but intact. "Hull integrity at 70%, reported the damage control officer. "But we're still flying." "That's all I need to hear," Sarah said. "Come about for another pass." The remaining pirates suddenly realized they weren't facing a typical spacefaring species. Most galactic races fought at distance with energy weapons and automated defenses. Humans fought up close with kinetic weapons and personal courage. It was like bringing a sword to a gunfight, theoretically primitive, but absolutely terrifying in practice. 2 more pirate ships broke off and fled toward the edge of the system. The last 2 tried to coordinate a final attack, but the void whales had other ideas. The great creatures surrounded the pirates, their song rising to a frequency that interfered with enemy targeting systems. "Ma'am," called the communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council emergency frequency. It's Admiral Thessarian of the Andorian fleet." Sarah raised an eyebrow. The Andorians were one of the oldest spacefaring races, and their military was considered among the most professional in the galaxy. "Put him through." A blue-skinned face with elegant features appeared on screen. Admiral Thessarian's expression was carefully neutral, but Sarah could see approval in his ancient eyes. "Captain Chun," the Admiral said formally, "I am Admiral Thessarian commanding the 3rd Fleet. We received your distress relay and are currently en route to your position. With respect, Admiral, the situation is under control, Sarah replied. So, I observed, Thessarian said with a hint of a smile. Your tactical performance has been educational. The Bloodfawn Consortium has been operating in this sector for decades. Previous attempts to apprehend them have failed due to their superior numbers and mobility. They're not that superior, Sarah said as another railgun barrage finished off the second-to-last pirate ship. They just needed someone willing to get their hands dirty. Indeed, Captain Shun, the Galactic Council has been discussing humanity's application for full membership status. Your actions today will certainly factor into that decision. Sarah glanced at the tactical display where the last pirate ship was desperately trying to escape the system. Admiral, with all due respect, we didn't do this for politics. We did it because it was right. Admiral Thessarian's smile became more pronounced. Yes, Captain, that is exactly what we were hoping to hear. As the last pirate vessel fled into hyperspace, the void whales began to gather around the human ship. Their song had changed again, deeper, more complex, filled with harmonies that spoke of gratitude and respect. Through the bridge viewports, Sarah could see the great creatures circling slowly, their bioluminescent patterns creating a light show that would have been beautiful under any circumstances. But knowing these beings had chosen to trust humanity with their friendship made it something more. It made it sacred. Captain, called Dr. Patel from sick bay. The Kethran survivors are stable. Dr. Lyra is requesting permission to speak with you. Send her up, Sarah said. I think we all have a lot to discuss. 3 months later, Dr. Lyra Vexcon stood in the observation deck of the new joint research station humanity had established in the Terminus sector. Through the massive transparent aluminum windows, she could see void whales moving in their ancient patterns, no longer alone in the cosmic dark. The station itself was a marvel of cooperative engineering. Human durability and practical design merged with Kethran's scientific precision and Andorian technological elegance. It represented something new in the galaxy, a research facility built not to study subjects, but to learn alongside partners. The migration patterns are even more complex than we originally thought, Lyra said to Captain Sarah Chun, who had become an unexpected friend over the past months. The whales aren't just traveling between star systems. They're following gravity waves, stellar magnetic fields, even quantum fluctuations we barely understand. Sarah nodded, watching a pod of juvenile whales learning to navigate near the station. Human children from the nearby colony ship often pressed their faces against the windows, waving at the young creatures who seemed to wave back with graceful fin movements. Dr. Patel thinks they're teaching us as much as we're learning, Sarah said. Her medical scans showed that whale bioelectricity isn't just for communication. It's a form of healing. They were literally sharing life force with your damaged ship. The rescue had changed everything. Within days of the battle, news of humanity's actions had spread throughout the galaxy. A young species willing to risk their lives for strangers, working in partnership with creatures most races considered mere animals, had captured the imagination of countless worlds. The Galactic Council vote is today, Lyra mentioned, her scaled skin shifting to hopeful blue patterns. So, I heard, Sarah replied. Though honestly, I'm not sure we care about their approval anymore. Through the window, they could see the human colony ship New Horizon maintaining orbit nearby. Families were already establishing permanent settlements in this system, drawn by the opportunity to live alongside the void whales. Children who grew up here would learn the whale song as easily as human lullabies. The door chimed, and Admiral Thessarian entered the observation deck. The Andorian's expression was carefully neutral, but Lyra had learned to read the subtle signs of his species' emotions. Ladies, he said formally, then relaxed into a smile. The council vote was unanimous. Humanity has been granted full membership status in the Galactic Federation. Sarah raised an eyebrow. Unanimous? I thought the hegemony representatives were opposed. They were, Thessarian admitted, until 3 days ago when the Bloodfawn Consortium attempted to raid their outer colonies. Apparently, Word had spread that humans were soft targets who only protected other species. How did that work out for them? Sarah asked with dark amusement. The Hegemony Defense Force suffered 30% casualties before human reinforcements arrived, Thessarian said. The Marines you trained held the line until your fleet could jump in. The Bloodfawn Consortium no longer exists as an organized threat. Lyra felt a shiver of awe. In 3 months, humanity had gone from unknown newcomers to the galaxy's most respected protectors. Not through conquest or superior technology, but through simple willingness to stand between predators and their prey. There's more, Thessarian continued. The Council is establishing new protocols based on human tactical doctrine. Every member species will now maintain rapid response fleets for humanitarian missions. We're calling it the Chun Protocol. Sarah looked embarrassed. Admiral, that's not necessary. Captain, it is entirely necessary, Thessarian interrupted. For too long, we've allowed the galaxy's predators to operate with impunity because it was easier than taking action. You've reminded us that civilization requires eternal vigilance. Through the station's communication system, a deep harmonic tone resonated, whale's song, but with new complexity. Human scientists have been working with Dr. Lyra to decode the creature's language, and this pattern was unmistakable. They're singing about home. Lyra translated, tears flowing down her cheeks. The whales are singing about how this system has become home because humans made it safe. A young voice came over the intercom, one of the colony children who had been learning whale song. Dr. Lyra, the baby whales are trying to sing human words. They want to learn our language too. Sarah and Lyra exchanged amazed glances. In all her years of research, Lyra had never documented whales attempting to mimic other species' communication methods. Permission to join the children, Captain? Lyra asked formally. Granted, Sarah replied with a grin. In fact, I think I'll come too. Can't let the scientists have all the fun. As they made their way to the junior research lab, where human and Kethran children worked together to communicate with young whales, Admiral Thessarian followed thoughtfully. Captain, he said quietly, there's something else. Intelligence reports suggest the Voidstalkers are mobilizing in the Outer Rim. They've been quiet for centuries, but recent activities suggest they're planning something significant. Sarah's expression became serious. The Voidstalkers were legends, an ancient species that supposedly harvested entire star systems for resources. Most races considered them myths, but Admiral Thessarian wouldn't bring them up lightly. What do you need from us, Admiral? Nothing yet, Thessarian replied. But when the time comes and intelligence suggests it will come soon, we may need humanity to do what it does best, which is stand in the path of monsters and refuse to yield. As they entered the lab, where children's laughter mixed with whale song in perfect harmony, Sarah felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy as protectors and bridge builders, but she suspected their greatest test was yet to come. Outside the station, the void whales continued their eternal dance among the stars, no longer alone in the cosmic dark. They had called to the depths of space, and the Deathworlders had answered. Now, together, they would face whatever darkness lay ahead. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Some things were worth fighting for, and humans would never stop fighting for their friends.